Good morning, everybody. My name is Síofra. I'm the head of the School of Languages, Cultures and Linguistics. And so, if you are interested in studying modern European languages or global languages at UCD, this is the place to come. Come to us. And if you want to study a discipline called linguistics, so the theory or science of languages, you can take modules or a degree in linguistics and or modern languages in our school. So I do have a lounge full of lecturers here today with me. We want to hear your questions. So please use the chat function down below. Okay, so look at the bottom of your screen, pop in your questions, and we will go through them as we go. Okay, why would you come to the School of Languages, Cultures and Linguistics? Firstly, our school is a really friendly place to study. So our teaching combines huge lectures with small group teaching where our students all get to know one another. We also strongly encourage our students to spend a year abroad. So in a country where maybe they speak your target language or you just want to go study. We call this an Erasmus year. And today I'm actually going to invite some of my colleagues from our 5 core languages, and from linguistics. Our 5 core languages are French, German, Spanish, Portuguese, and Italian. And we're going to present what we do in these languages to you, and then we're going to present our modern languages degree and also our school LLC degree program. And remember that apart from French, you can take up these languages and learn them from scratch. So as complete beginners at UCD, it's a fabulous opportunity. Lots of our students have done this and they succeed really well. All my colleagues, I'm going to give them 2 minutes to talk to you, to pitch their language to you. And I will now, first of all, hand over to Pascal from Spanish.
Hola a todos y bienvenidos al español en UCD. Hi everyone and welcome to Spanish in UCD. So through studying Spanish and Portuguese in UCD, you'll have access to the very exciting and dynamic cultures of Spain and Latin America and of Portugal and the Lusophone world. You can learn both these languages from beginner's level or non-beginner's level if you had studied Spanish or Portuguese before, a leaving cert or another sort of qualification. You will learn the language through language classes, grammar and conversation classes, and that will provide a bridge for you to have access to Hispanic and Lusophone cultures through the study of politics, literature, history, etc., visual cultures. And you will see just how much the cultures of Spain and Latin America have to offer, and going far beyond the stereotypes of flamenco and bullfighting for Spain. For instance, you can study the history of conquest and colonialism of Latin America by Spain and Portugal, and the unique hybrid cultures that those events have produced throughout the region. And best of all, as Síofra just previously mentioned, you will have the opportunity to actually be in one of the Spanish-speaking or Portuguese-speaking countries for your year abroad, your Erasmus year, under the Erasmus scheme, and experience the richness of these cultures for yourself. Our students come back transformed from these years and really does help them in their final year of study in UCD. I'd also recommend joining the brilliant Hispanic Society to further immerse yourself in these cultures. So without further ado, I will say muchas gracias y nos vemos pronto, and I'll now hand over to my colleague in Italian, Paolo.
Ciao, ciao a tutti. Mi chiamo Paolo, or rather, my name is Paolo. So I'm here to tell you basically one thing, that Italian is for everybody. Italian is, of course, for those who have studied it. So if you have studied it, or maybe if you haven't studied it, but just know some of it for whatever reason, well, obviously you're welcome. Obviously, this is your opportunity and to develop what you started to know. But if you have no Italian whatever, well, look, the whole course, the whole program is designed for you. Because obviously not too many people know Italian before coming to college. So starting from scratch, you'll be led and guided to fluency. But that's not just fluency to language. Of course, there's fluency in language, but language is a gateway to culture, literature, cinema, theater, media, all those many, many things that make up a surprisingly rich offer, Italy and the Italian culture, where before Italy has so much to offer. And much of that is basically unknown to non-specialists, but because of that, being an Italian fluent and speaker and being able to dialogue with the Italian culture is so much on demand because there aren't so many people capable of doing that. But you can do that within your 3 years. Plus, if you can and if you want, go 1 year on Erasmus in exchange to one of those fabulous Italian destinations. And everybody who returns knows very well that that's a transformative experience. So it will be an opportunity. I encourage you to grab that opportunity. Arrivederci for now. I hope to see you all again. And I hand over now to my colleague in German. Ciao.
Hallo und willkommen an alle. Mein Name ist Siobhan. I'm going to talk in English because you do not need German to study at UCD. In the first year, we have 2 streams, one for those with Leaving Cert German or equivalent, and one for complete beginners. The same in the second year. And by the end of your second year, you're pretty much on par with all the non-beginners. So why study German and why at UCD? Well, German has the largest number of native speakers in the EU. The majority in Germany, of course, which I think everyone agrees is the economic powerhouse of the EU, and the rest in Austria and Switzerland. German and English have shared roots. Nobody needs to know German to understand Hand, Finger, Apfel, Haus, or Bier. And in the cultural sphere, German is the language of many influential writers, artists, thinkers, filmmakers, and I'm sure you know many of these names: Hannah Arendt, Bach, Brecht, Fassbinder, Freud, the Grimm brothers, you'll all know the Grimm fairy tales, Kafka, Fassbinder, Mozart, Schiller. Schiller, of course, author of the European anthem, The Ode to Joy, set by Beethoven. Wouldn't you love to read these in the original German? And many of you will have visited dynamic Berlin, elegant Vienna, financial Frankfurt, and marvelous Munich. And yes, if and when you do Erasmus, you could end up in one of these cities alongside many others. You can take German as part of your degree or as an elective. As part of your degree, you take core language modules and cultural modules, looking at the history, literature, culture, and world of German film. And outside of your studies, we have our wonderful student-led German Society. That's all from me now. Over to Douglas Smith from French. Wiedersehen und bis bald.
Thank you, Siobhan. Bonjour et bienvenue à toutes et à tous. My name is Douglas Smith, and I'm here to talk a little bit about French at UCD. Rather than providing a lot of information, which I can provide in the question and answer later, I just want to make 3 points, really. The first point is that French is a global language spoken on 5 continents, from Europe through Africa and the islands of the Indian Ocean and Polynesia, to North America, the Caribbean, and even the Amazonian rainforest. It's the 7th most widely spoken second language in the world, and this makes it an extremely valuable means of communication and exchange on all sorts of levels: personal, cultural, political, and economic. The second point I'd like to make is that this global reach of the language isn't something to be triumphalist or complacent about. As with other European languages, the global presence of French is in large part the result of colonialism. Studying the language involves exploring that more problematic aspect of the history of countries like France and Belgium. And in opening up these questions, learning a language is an invitation to think critically about some of the most pressing problems that the world currently faces. Third point. Partly because of this history, language has often been described as a barrier. We've all heard of the language barrier. So languages can be used, certainly, to exclude and to discriminate. But more importantly and optimistically, language can also be used to nurture relationships and promote understanding. Language is a means for people from different places and backgrounds to understand one another better, to appreciate who they are, where they come from, and what they stand for. As a result, it's a means for people to develop new and better ways of living together. Language is a bridge rather than a barrier. To sum up then, studying French and any language in UCD really, it's about firstly communication, secondly critical thinking, and thirdly building bridges rather than barriers. So if you have any further questions about French and the details of the program, please feel free to address them to me later on. So thank you very much. Au revoir et à bientôt. And I'm going to hand you over now to my colleague in linguistics, Máire Ní Chiasáin.
Hello, I'm here now to chat about linguistics. So For those who are interested in languages, and I assume everybody here really should be or must be, linguistics has a lot to offer. So linguists explore the structure of language, so the sounds, the words, the sentences, and we pay attention particularly to what people say and describing what they say rather than what they should say. So we also investigate what is possible in a human language, so in a natural language. We look at how language is used differently depending on the social context or the formality or informality of the context. We look at how our identity is deeply encoded in our languages. We can use language to indicate that we belong to a certain group or not. We look at how children acquire language. So think about it. Children by the age of about 4 years old have essentially acquired the adult system of language. And think of all the other things that a 4-year-old can or cannot do in terms of motor skills and general cognitive skills. So language really stands out as being somehow quite different. There's plenty of other very interesting topics that we cover. For example, we have modules on language and law, language impairment, world Englishes, on minority and endangered languages. So this is a topic which, of course, is inextricably linked with endangerment of communities and ways of life, which is really particularly relevant at the moment with the focus on climate change. So plenty of very interesting possibilities for language enthusiasts, but also for people interested in language in general. Okay, so that's a flavour of what we offer, and I'll hand you over now to Tara Plunkett, the director of the BA Modern Languages. Tara.
Hola, salut, ciao. I'm here to talk to you today about the degree programme, the BA in International Modern Languages. So if you're a student who's decided that you would like to study at least 2 languages, possibly 3 at university level, then this could be the degree programme for you. So rather than studying, for example, French and Spanish in isolation, this is a degree programme created together with colleagues in our school in order to equip you with the skills to compare and contrast and create links and interconnectivities between the languages of your choice. So say, for example, we will equip you with the skills to draw connections between 20th century Italian women writers and how they might be reflected in the surrealist artworks by Spanish artists you may have chosen. So how do we give you these skills? We have created a special suite of interdisciplinary, intercultural modules together with colleagues in the school that are specifically for the cohort in BA International Modern Languages. These specific modules will be taken by that cohort as a small group, so you'll get to know the other students in the cohort and work together across the 4 years of the degree programme. These modules complement your 2 or possibly 3 other languages, so as well as developing your cultural, linguistic and literary perspectives, you gain a holistic overview, helping to create global citizens for a wider world. Other benefits of this degree programme, apart from the small group teaching, include a guaranteed Erasmus year. I'll pass on to my colleague Manu, who's going to teach you about the Languages, Linguistics and Cultures pathway.
So my name is Dr. Manu Bragança, and I am in charge of the Languages, Linguistics and Cultures pathway. But rather than looking at them like this, we should look at them like this, if this works. So we should look at them as a system. By learning a language and its culture, you will also be helped by linguistics, because linguistics, as my colleague Maura said earlier on, it's about understanding how all languages work. So it's really a system. So what languages can you learn? So you can learn, not sure you can see this, Irish, French, German, Italian, Spanish, Latin, Ancient Greek, but you can also learn Portuguese and Welsh through electives. So not to the same level, but still it's quite useful. In 2 words, what's the difference between this course and the one that Tara mentioned before? One main difference is that in this course, you can only learn 1 language, because you have linguistics as equally important. But to qualify this course, I would say this. It's about flexibility and employability together. you have you are in control of your course to a large extent. In terms of flexibility and employability, for example, in third year, you can choose to go abroad for 6 months or 1 year, or you can choose to do an internship for 6 months and just go abroad for 1 semester, or you can take modules at UCD. So you have a lot of flexibility there. And in the modules that you can take at UCD, they very much focus on employability. So you have modules, for example, on web publishing, on digital storytelling, and more. And if you have more questions about this, this is the email address llc@ucd.ie. And of course, I'll stay around to answer questions you may have about this course. And I think now it's back to you, Síofra.
Thank you, Manu, and thanks to all our colleagues here today for that whistle-stop tour, literally, of our entire school and all our offerings. Now, we have some super questions coming in the Q&A, so I'm going to address one of them straight away. Where are the most common... well, we'll start with the Erasmus. What are the destinations of Erasmus? Now, this is a question everybody always asks. So I'm delighted to say that each different language actually has a raft of choices. I'm going to give you some of the main names. For example, if you travel on Erasmus with Portuguese, you might go to Porto. If you go to Italy or with Italian, you may go to Rome or Milan or Urbino. If you go with German, German crosses, obviously, you can go to Berlin or destinations like Munich in Germany, but you can also go to Austria, to Vienna. French is also, I suppose, a multi-country destination. So we can go to Paris or Bordeaux, or we can go to Canada, to Montreal, or you might go to Switzerland, to Geneva, or you might end up in Belgium, in Brussels. So quite a raft there. And similarly, Spanish. One might go to Salamanca, to Sevilla, to Granada, but you could also go to South America. So maybe Argentina, Mexico, Uruguay, or Chile. So that just gives you a little taster of some of the connections that we as a school have. And obviously UCD more generally has an even broader range of choices. So you may end up traveling maybe with a different subject and going to yet another even more exotic destination. It's a wonderful opportunity. Another question that has come through is, what are the most common careers that people who studied languages go into? Well, that's a really good question, Catherine. And in fact, one that I can answer with, again, a selection of some of our former students' directions. Some of our students have gone into journalism, into PR, into law, into international business, into international relations, public administration, education, translating, interpreting, journalism, media, tourism, and careers in the EU. So a huge, vast range, and that's only a selection. So you can imagine that these degrees, essentially a primary degree in modern languages, gives you a fabulous tool and an immense cultural background, a wealth of knowledge that you can bring really anywhere and into any career with you. Some will retrain, some will go straight into jobs afterwards, depending on what your target direction is. Now, we have another question coming through. Can we choose French as an elective? Yes, the good news is that you can actually choose any of most of the modules we offer in the school. You could also take as an elective. You could be a student of medicine, engineering, commerce, food science, and you could still take some of our modules as electives. We have another question coming through. Aoife, do you want to type that in again? I suspect it might be a question about maybe taking up new languages. I repeat what my colleague said, that apart from French, it is possible to take all of our languages up from scratch. Now, in our school, we don't teach French from scratch, but if you do want to come to UCD and start French, you can do so as an elective in what we call the Applied Languages Centre, but that's not our school, but it is. We're obviously, we're in the same world, and that is possible, but just not in our school. We have another question coming through. I currently do Leaving Cert Spanish. Is the first year in the Spanish at the same level as Leaving Cert, or is it more difficult? I'm going to pass that question on to the head of Spanish, Pascal.
So it will be progressing from what you've learned at Leaving Cert. And I think the style of learning is maybe a little different to what you've done at Leaving Cert, and that it's more independent study. But obviously you will be using all your knowledge and experience gained to take you forward from what you've learned at Leaving Cert.
Thanks, Pascal. And in fact, could we also ask maybe Douglas to talk about the level of French that would be expected coming in? Now that we're saying that you can't do French from scratch, maybe you might give us an idea, Douglas, of what level we're expecting students to come in with in level 1.
Sure, we would very strongly recommend an H4 in the Leaving Cert. Roughly, I guess, in terms of the Common European Framework, A2 level. So it's not a beginner's level that we start with or we don't start from scratch. Our students have already acquired a certain level of knowledge of French before entering the program. So H4 in the Leaving Cert, A2 in the Common European Framework of reference.
Yeah, or kind of in modern parlance, maybe lower intermediate approximately, but Douglas was much more specific, and that's really useful. Thank you. There's another question here saying, do you need to take a certain test to see what level of language you're at? Obviously not, Aideen, that's good news. You might like to test yourself from the perspective of French, but otherwise, because all of these languages can be taken ab initio, so as beginners, you're very welcome to just sign up and launch in. We also have another question about, can you study 2 languages in this course? Can German and Irish be an option? Now, if you're taking the BA in Modern Languages, it would be the list that Tara focused on, so French, German, Italian, Spanish, Portuguese. However, in UCD, we also have the BA. And in a BA degree, of course, you could take German and Irish. There are lots of combinations. Again, I would encourage you to look at the BA Humanities, Arts and Humanities brochure that has been copied, thank you, Emer, into the chat. So it's just been pasted into the chat. Please have a look at that. And there you'll see all the subject combinations. And our students choose all sorts of wonderful combinations of subjects under the BA, or indeed then the BA Humanities, which was what our colleague Manu was talking about. So there are lots of options. BA degrees are typically 3 years, and typically our students would take two subjects, maybe, I don't know, French and history, German and Irish, and then they would take an extra year, an Erasmus year, so it becomes a 4-year degree. Douglas, would you like to jump in?
Yes, Síofra, sorry, just to add, on the general prospectus for this year, page 29 has an extremely useful diagram which allows you to see which subjects can be combined with one another within the BA Joint Honours, the DN 520 program. So that's page 29 in the general prospectus. It's actually not in the Arts and Humanities prospectus, but it's on page 29 of the general prospectus.
Brilliant. Thank you, Douglas. And we have one very important question here. What level would you be at in a language after first year if you're starting at beginners or starting at advanced level? Well, just to give you an idea, we don't expect any students to start at advanced level. Okay, so that's a general indicator. If you're coming in and you've already done, let's say, a little bit of language, you may reach the B1 level at the end of first year. Could I maybe ask, let's see, I'll pop over to Paolo in Italian. In Italian, Paolo, what level would you expect students to be at maybe approximately at the end of first year if they've just started Italian from scratch?
Yeah. At the end of first year, of course, you're not supposed to be fluent. It would be something like no longer beginner, but let's say advanced beginner. In practical terms, you'll be able to exchange words, to react in a communicative situation. You'll be able to do something and to be able to engage with some very simple text. In more formal terms, there would be like A2 in the Common European Framework, but let's say advanced beginner, something like that.
That's brilliant. Now, it's my pleasure now to just thank everyone, thank all of my colleagues here today, and thank you all for coming in to listen to us today. We'll all collectively say goodbye in all of our different languages right now, okay? So, slán!
Au revoir et à bientôt, j'espère.
Wiedersehen.
Ciao.
Luego.
Slán!